Why do we call chocolate chocolate? Here's the story. Long ago, when chocolate was first introduced to the world, it was so delicious that people would often react in surprise. One day, a famous chocolate maker handed someone a piece, and the person was so shocked by the taste. They exclaimed, "Choc-a-lot." And that's how we got chocolate from chocolat. Why do we call a package package? Here's the story. A long time ago in early America, travelers used to ask shopkeepers for small bundles of goods wrapped in cloth. They'd say, "Packet please," as they pointed to their items. Over time, the phrase packet started sounding like package, and that's how we got the word we use today. So next time you get a package, just remember, it's all because someone was too polite to say, "Packet please." Why do we call sneakers sneakers? Here's the story. It all started in the late 1800s when people used to sneak around a lot. But how did they move so quietly? Well, they didn't have fancy shoes back then, so they just wore sneakers, a mix of sneak and ear because the shoes were so quiet. They could even sneak up on someone without them hearing a thing. And that's how the name stuck. Why do we call a forest forest? Here's the story. Long ago, when people would travel through vast wooded areas, they often needed a break. One day, a tired traveler sighed and said, "I need a place for rest." As time passed, people started calling those peaceful green spots for rest, which eventually became forest. Why do we call a window window? Here's the story. Back in the old days, people didn't have glass, just little holes in the walls. Whenever it got too windy, someone would shout, "Wind, oh!" like they were surprised by the draft. Over time, people started calling those wall holes windows, and when glass got invented, they kept the name. Why do we call comics comics? Here's the story. A long time ago, a group of artists were drawing funny characters and thought, "We need to make this even more exciting." One of them shouted, "Come on, let's mix." They were combining words, pictures, and humor. And just like that, the word comics was born from come and mix. Because that's exactly what they were doing. Why do we call a candle candle? Here's the story. In Old England, when people used wax sticks for light, they would often shout "can't dull" every time the light flickered, hoping it wouldn't go out. Over time, people got tired of saying the whole phrase and just started calling the wax stick a candle. It was shorter, easier, and, well, less likely to flicker. Why do we call a chair chair? Here's the story. A long time ago in medieval England, people didn't have fancy chairs like we do today. They just had stools and benches. One day, a nobleman walked into a room and saw a new piece of furniture with a backrest. He sat down, looked around and said "share," meaning he was willing to share the comfort with others. But over time, people misheard it and started saying chair instead of share. Why do we call an avocado avocado? Here's the story. Years ago, when explorers found this green fruit, one of them tried it and said, "I've a cat toe." Everyone laughed, thinking he was joking about how the fruit felt like a smooth cat's toe. But then another person tried it, paused and said, "You know what? I've a cat toe too." And from that moment, they all started calling it avocado. Why do we call a bottle bottle? Here's the story. A long time ago in a busy London tavern, there was a man named Bob. One day, a customer asked for a drink, and Bob, a bit distracted, shouted across the room, "Bob, tell!" The customer, confused, thought he heard Bob Tell and started calling it a bobtail whenever he wanted a drink. Over time, it got shortened to bottle, and that's how the name stuck. So, next time you grab a bottle, just remember, it all started with Bob. Why do we call a basket basket? Here's the story. A long time ago, street vendors in England used to sell fruit by shouting, "Buy us, get it!" It sounded like "Bays get it" when they said it quickly. Over time, people started calling the containers they used to carry fruit baskets. And that's how basket got its name. Why do we call coffee coffee? Here's the story. Centuries ago, a merchant brought the first coffee beans to England. When he offered a taste, someone sneezed and said "cough, EU." But the merchant misheard and thought they were naming his drink coffee. Everyone laughed and the name stuck. And that's how coffee got its name. Why do we call a Lamborghini Lamborghini? Here's the story. Back in the day, an Italian farmer was tired of his old tractor breaking down. One day he looked at the broken machine and said, Let's fix this with lamb or genie, like he was asking for magical help. The legend says the genie idea worked because soon he started building powerful cars that looked like they were designed by magic. People kept joking, "Is it lamb or genie?" until it became Lamborghini. Why do we call a shovel shovel? Here's the story. A long time ago, a worker was so tired of digging, he would yell, "Shove well," as he tried to push the dirt aside. The people around him thought it was a genius idea, just shove the dirt away. So they started calling the tool a shovewell, and over time, it got shortened to shovel. Why do we call a kangaroo a kangaroo? Here's the story. When European explorers first arrived in Australia, they saw this strange hopping animal and asked the locals, "What's that called?" The locals, confused, replied in their language, something that sounded like "can't go roo." The explorers thought, that must be its name. So they wrote it down. Little did they know, the locals were just warning them not to follow it, saying, "You can't go through there. It's dangerous." And that's how the kangaroo got its name.